the E&Y Entrepreneur of the Year 2015 Malaysia Award goes to Datuk Tan Sejin, Irish Corporation Berhad.
Jim, thanks for speaking to us today. You have been a serial entrepreneur, in my view, in various aspects. So maybe tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. I know it hasn't ended yet, it's still continuing.
Well, I retired from Irisa, as you know, when I reached 60 years old, which I felt too young to retire. Yeah? And I've been keeping quiet for the last 3 years. I wanted to come out, then came the pandemic. But I've always been itching to go back into the corporate world, so to speak. Currently, I'm doing something. I wanted to get back into the action. Pandemic has set plans back a little bit, but at the same time, also create opportunities. No, I enjoy coming to this EY program. I think that's the best thing has ever happened to my corporate career. Being an EY Entrepreneur of the Year winner, and able to mix with like-minded fellow winners or the alumni, even though some are not winners, but everyone is a winner per se. I cherish being in the EOY alumni, meeting people and talking about this. One shouldn't stop working, one shouldn't stop dreaming, and one should just strive to do things, and all the more during this pandemic. I remember in Monte Carlo, Brian and Maria says, we cherish entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs create employment. And during these past 2 years, when employment opportunities have been few and far between, I think the entrepreneurs should all come about or rise up and say, hey man, let's bring this so-called reset. Let's make the world a thriving place again.
Amazing, amazing story. I just want to take you back to 2008. If I'm not mistaken, you won the Technology Entrepreneur of the Year at that point in time. And you always tell me, whenever I speak to you, that you're really not a technology expert, but how did you manage to bring
there's two parts to the technology. One thing is the invention, and the other thing is what can the invention do. So I'm more on the application of the invention rather than the inventor itself. So you look at when we started Iris, when me, Tony and Chess, at times we collectively call ourselves the Three Stooges. We have 2 engineers and an accountant. The accountant is the guy who counts money, who sees money. So the 2 inventors will say, I want to do this. But on my side, I'm looking at what application can I use it for. So putting the chip in the passport then, I remember going to the authorities and somebody looked at me and says, what's so great about putting a chip in the passport? But today, it has become a global requirement. So in a way, maybe it was good that I was not a techno guy, so to speak, but I was more on the application side. So that has set the partnership very well.
I mean, you were credited with being the first to have a chip in a passport, right? And
the company, yes, of course.
Let's fast forward to 2015. 2015 was a pivotal year. Maybe you can share with us how you felt, when you were named.
It's amazing when I won the award. 2008 or was it 2010? I was the Technopreneur of the Year. 2015, I was the EY winner. And I remember some of the activities that got me this award was really not about the passport. It's about the new things that I ventured into. Kind of a social entrepreneurship kind of activities. I like to do things, I'm a social entrepreneur, so I like to do things to ensure that the underprivileged people would have the opportunity to enjoy some of the perks, if I can use the word perks, that the more fortunate people have. As an example, we all strive to have a roof over our heads. And they say housing is so expensive. And then the question I will ask myself, why is housing so expensive? Sometimes housing is expensive because we spend so much money on the frills, on the facade of the house, which really doesn't bring any value. And the moment we go into a house, it's really a square box, And this is something actually I learned from can you imagine a gardener, right, who did my garden. And he did my garden and looked very nice. I said, why don't you do that outside the wall? And he looked at me, he says, I'm not going to do it for you. I said, why? He said, you're not going to sit on the road and admire the wall. You only be sitting in the garden to admire your inner wall. So why do you want to make the outer wall look just as nice as the inner wall? Why are you spending money? So that sets me thinking. So I decided to go into a business where in a certain extent, I must confess here, I actually copied Tan Sri, I will call it Tan Sri Asia, okay, Tony Fernandez. You know, when he took the plane, you know, for 2 ringgit at the company, and then he made, now everybody can fly. So in a way, I'm actually copying, okay, I do apologize for copying. My mantra will be, now everyone can afford a home,
yes.
you know, now everyone can afford food on the table. So that, to me, was a change in my thinking, you know. Invent something, but let's go for the big masses, the what, 70%, or well, maybe at that time, we actually hope that only 20% of the world, people are less fortunate, but maybe that, the so-called B40, the percentage has gone up from, it used to be 40, 40, 20, you know, B40, 20, 40%, B, now it's actually gone up. So I have actually a certain shift in my thinking.
So Jim, I just want to talk about 2015, World Entrepreneur of the Year in Monte Carlo.
Yes.
How was that experience for you?
It was amazing, you know. Coming on stage at the Opera House, walking out, and then the announcer announced what this person have done. And when you sit down and you say, hey, you think you're good in your country, but you're so small when compared to global entrepreneurs. Or we think we're not big enough, but when we're at this stage, you say, hey, we're not bad.
Yeah, you've done something special, right?
Something special. I remember that particular year, the winner from Portugal, the 2 brothers, they were, well, they went in because they did very well in the auto gates. Then I sat back and I was actually talking to my colleagues who joined me, and I said, hey, we did that 8 years ago, you know, and today these 2 guys are winners in their country doing auto gates. We are the bloody inventor of the auto gates. Sometimes, you know, when we're in a country, we never think that what we have achieved maybe is groundbreaking. So going to Monte Carlo exposed me tremendously, you know, and then we also find out that there was one year, the guy who won that year was in the toys business.
Yes.
You know, from Australia,
yes.
you know. Okay, then you think about it, hey, a guy who's doing toys, you know, is a global entrepreneur of the, you know, is a global winner. So it sets me thinking, and it was also very good for my colleagues because I used that opportunity as a management training, you know, where we organized that. It certainly was an opener. For the last 3 years, you know, because of this pandemic, and it was not held, I hope really EY can start the Monte Carlo thing again. You know.
Jim, I know that 1 or 2 years later, you went back and you were a speaker at the awards program in the World event.
Yeah.
And you were specially recognized for the social enterprise that, you know, Rimbunan Kasih and so on. Maybe you want to share how was that experience?
Well, I guess in Monte Carlo, where it's the playground for the rich and famous, when you bring a program where you're doing bring social benefits to the poor, you actually touch or prick their conscience, you know. There was me, there was this gentleman from the States who invented the oven, and then this Dr. Jennifer from Kenya, the chairman of Kenya Women Holdings. I learned something from her, and she said, you know, Jim, I think your program has some shortcomings, which, yes, I did. And the subsequent year, I went back and I told about the failures of that program. She said, you should not be giving things free. Even those people who are underprivileged, you mustn't give things for free because then it became an entitlement kind of mentality. You should make them pay for it.
I think that caused a major impact because we are talking a lot about social enterprise being good for business as well, you know, and it's not just a social outcome, but it's actually intertwined into the way business operates.
Well, not just business, political stability. You know, 2 days ago in the newspaper in Malaysia, 2 children, aged 2 and 4, died because they were found next to a rubbish dump or rubbish bin, and they died of food poisoning. Are you telling me in today's environment where there's so much food wastages that you have people dying of hunger, or people do silly things when they could not afford to put food on the table? I remember saying, talking in Monte Carlo, there's no greater shame for a man, okay, for a man or for the head of the household, be it a man or a lady. There's no greater shame is when you're not able to provide food on the table and roof over the heads. Now, that should be the minimum anyone should do. Whether it's government, whether it's employer, whether it's anybody, that should be the case, you know. Okay, when we fly from Kuala Lumpur, Monte Carlo, when up in the air, when you look down, there's actually no boundaries.
Yes.
It's just one common place called Mother Earth.
Yes.
So why are we not having basic things being spread globally?
Right.
You know, so Monte Carlo provides the platform. because it is accumulation of 40 global entrepreneurs in one place. And after that retreat or after the event, they'll go back to their countries and they'll probably say, hey man, EY, when we're in this EY program, we talk about this, why are we not doing something about it? Sometimes, Philip, you might not recognize it or you might not be aware of it. For me, as an alumni, every time coming back from Monte Carlo, and I've been there 4 years, it sets me thinking. And I'll come back and I'll be telling my colleagues in the office and say, hey man, this is what we are talking globally. So we should inculcate some of these requirements. Maybe I want to call it a requirement rather than just a wish list. And we just do it and So back in during my Iris days, I make sure lunch is free. I make sure everyone has a proper meal, when they come to the office to work. What's wrong with that?
Jim, I know that you are one person who never stops your entrepreneurial endeavor. So maybe tell us a little bit about your plans, and how you see the way forward, the future in this country.
Well, after I retired from Iris, there were two things I was not able to achieve. One was to bring about the housing methodology that I started. I remember putting up 3 houses on the rooftop and people were amazed. I have a rooftop garden. I have a complete food ecosystem on the rooftop where there wasn't a single grain of soil. It was like kind of growing food in the desert because definition of the desert, very hot, harsh ground conditions, and yet I was able to have a complete food ecosystem. I need to go regionally because maybe in Malaysia, the building methodology that I have might not be suitable because we're so used to brick and mortar and coming with styrofoam. But I noticed of late in the United States, in Australia, in the Middle East, there's now a shift towards using styrofoam, which I advocated since 2015 to be used as a building material. But I did not go very far here because of maybe BOMBA requirements or what have you. But I see this happening now, global change, global warming, climate change. I would like to bring that Rimbunan Kasih program perhaps to the States.
Jim, every conversation I have ends with some advice that you would want to give for entrepreneurs out there. And I'm sure there's a lot of pearls of wisdom you can share. What do you tell entrepreneurs out there who are coming through the ranks, building their organizations, looking for new ideas? What sort of advice would you give them?
Well, this pandemic has caused tremendous upheaval. Companies where you never imagined having zero business. The entrepreneur must now stand up. There are opportunities in any crisis. There are bound to be opportunities. And I would like to see all entrepreneurs being the benchmark for creating employment to actually stand up and now say, hey man, there is a reset. Now what are we going to do about it? Get up and do something about it. And for budding entrepreneurs, just look around. Don't sit down and brood about and then say, hey, this is the end of the world. This is not the end of the world. The end of the world is very, very, very far away. Get up and do something about it. Help everyone. Help the underprivileged, help the government, so to speak, create employment opportunities. Just go and do it. Just believe. The ultimate thing is believe in yourself. You don't believe in yourself, nothing moves.
Jim, thank you so much for making time, and all the best in everything that you're going to do. I'll be interested to learn and listen to more stories of your entrepreneurial journey.
It is always a pleasure coming to an EY program.
All the best.
Thank you.